today to you out there in Radio Land. It is a wonderful day today, and we want to open today's show under the title, There is Nothing New Under the Sun. And I am joined by my co-host, Dr. Scharron, Clayton, Professor, and you and I.
Good morning, Lou. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine.
I'm fine. It's a wonderful day.
It's a wonderful day, and in spite of, this is going to be one of those in spite of, Scharron, that you just move ahead and accomplish what you can.
Yeah.
But the thing that is on my mind more than anything else as we begin this day and this portion of FYI, voting.
Absolutely.
And how many years has this been going on? That's the reason I'm saying there really is nothing new under the sun. We have more and more and more as a burden on ourselves to make sure that we do what needs to be done in terms of our concerns.
You know, it's really strange, you know, when you say it's nothing new under the sun. I want to say that I think what's new, you know, for a while was this voter situation. When we had the disenfranchisement of blacks in the United States, I mean, it was all, everybody knew about it, laws were there, you know, Jim Crow had come into being, they had reversed a lot of the civil rights laws, and this was way back in the, you know, 1800s or so, but maybe, yeah, 1800s, I believe. But what's new now is that voter suppression and voter intimidation, it went away for a while. You know, you didn't see it out in the open like you did prior to, during Jim Crow. But now, you see it out in the open. You see billboards, you see letters going out to people, you see laws and our government becoming involved again, attempting to become involved again. When I say our government, our state and local governments, becoming involved with voter intimidation, voter suppression, and the new thing that's going on now, as opposed to the 70s and 80s, etc., because of the technology, it's all above board and blatantly so. Blatantly in your face, we're going to intimidate you and we're going to stop your vote. I think that kind of thing might be a little bit new compared to some previous decades, you know.
I guess that does, the articles that I've been reading on the Cook brothers, for instance, I think there's about 50,000 people that they employ in one way or another, and how they were sent these nice little packages with the suggestion of what you should do with that information. And I understand that it's kind of a, they're leading the bandwagon on this, and other corporations are jumping on it. I have not seen a follow-up on that. But that is kind of scary, because if you think that your job would be in danger for maybe something that someone could say, well, we didn't tell you to. You know, we didn't really tell you, you had to. But you don't have to. If you just indicate to me in a certain way, speak to me, look at me in a certain way, I'm supposed to get the message and do what the suggestion, what that is all about.
It's the Cook brothers truly, I will say this, appear to be involved in some very diabolical kinds of efforts in our country, and I think we have to be ever vigilant about the role that big money and corporate life is playing. I think when the Supreme Court chose to identify corporations as people, to allow them to support at will through these PAC committees, the voting advertisement, etc., I think they unleashed an open Pandora's box.
That's right.
Because after that, you had many things surfacing. The latest intimidation tactic, what it appears to me to be, is that as the Obama administration began to challenge these laws that were being put forth in states regarding voter rights, laws that, may I say, that ALEC, which is supported by the Cook brothers, were putting into place in the state legislatures. As the Obama administration challenged, folks in the back room came up with new ways. They said, okay, if we can't get black and brown people through these laws, let's do something even better. Let's communicate with our workers and suppress the vote in that way. And so you move from one population to another. Now, folks, this is of course my opinion, but in reading, the Cook brothers certainly they certainly have done this with their workers, but there are other companies that had also began to send these letters out that if you vote in a particular way, insinuating that your wages will drop, we'll have to lay people off,
Right.
and
All the
etc.
horrors
I mean,
of the
this
world,
is
yeah.
this is just horrible. So the message is that while the national group is saying while the national office is suggesting that they're for the middle class, the upper portion of that national office is telling the middle class worker that you will not be supported. Now, Lou, you got to remember too that prior to this letter going out, all last year we were dealing with union busting.
Yes.
Okay, so now the workers are getting intimidated, and there's no union there in many cases to support them and to fight back.
Yeah.
So when I say diabolical, I mean I mean that because bit by bit, the rights of people who want to vote in a particular way are being dismantled, and they're dismantled every day. And I don't know where the outrage is about this particular issue.
I was just
you know,
gonna get to it.
where's the outrage?
That was my next question.
You know,
Have you?
Where's the outrage?
There has been no outreach, no outrage, no anything. And
Not in regards to these.
not in regards to
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Now, you know, when we listen to reports like this, and a lot of us maybe never even see the report, or we might catch part of it on CNN or whatever, but it can be, I think, as you've said, the middle class now is being told what they need to do. I think that they think the other people or people of color maybe are got them pretty well in tow. But you would think that there would be an outcry like nothing we've ever heard before with this kind of information out there floating around, and people feeling terrified about what they should do, and more importantly, if they don't do a certain thing, what will happen to them?
You know, isn't it odd that
It's their living. It's everything.
It's odd that the news stations can, report on most anything regarding efforts, the smaller efforts. You know, I call them, they're big efforts, but they report on the legislation, but they won't touch these corporations.
Right.
And because the money that's tied up with our news media actually is the same money that's tied up among these people who own businesses. If you look at who owns the media, and I mean mass media, not just the visual, but I'm talking radio.
Everything.
For instance, the billboards that were put up in Ohio and Minnesota, I think it was Minnesota, that said if you vote, you could be charged. Voter fraud is a $10,000 fine. These were put up in black and brown neighborhoods, thousands of these signs. Guess who owned those billboards that actually ran those ads?
And tell me,
it was Clear Channel.
Clear Channel.
It was Clear Channel. And they, of course, said they didn't know. Okay, here you go. They didn't know who, because nobody signed those billboards, right?
Right.
And so they didn't know who put them up. But Clear Channel, now Clear Channel is an owner of media, right? Mass media. Mass media,
That's right.
because they own a lot of radio stations. Well, the folks in Ohio did protest, and one of the black female senators, she was involved in that. They did get them last week to take those billboards down, and now Clear Channel is saying they're going to put up, accurate information, etc.
Oh,
now,
okay.
I don't know if I'm rambling, but there's a little saying that if you want to find out what's wrong, follow the money.
Oh, yeah.
Just follow the money. And so my premise and my statement and thesis was that the television news media outlets are not really blowing up the corporate involvement in voter intimidation as I think they should, because there is corporate involvement, and they can't do it often because the money is tied up between so many of these owners who own media, who own corporations, and who actually have been funding one of the parties, you know, in terms of the ads.
But have you ever, when's the last time, the Voting Act and all that, Sharon, when is the last time that we have seen such concentrated efforts put out to make people believe one thing when it really is another, that you're trying to get people so that they are apprehensive, they don't know what they should do or how they should do it. But I would imagine if we worked for some company and we got a package in the mail, that it wouldn't take too long to figure out what it is you're supposed to do. Why did they send it in the first place, and what is the content of it? And I think that even if it is directed at middle-class people, what about other people who are never even going to get this far? In other words, these people are still fortunate as far as I'm concerned, because the people under them were not going to be able to have put any distance between themselves and what is required of them, because they have everything to lose.
Absolutely.
And other people can at least kind of hold on and say, should I dare, should do this?
Right.
But there's a whole layer of people out there.
You know, it's really exhausting and taxing, and it really strikes a core of my soul to see how we have evolved into a people in a society of haves and have-nots, and how the haves work so very hard to maintain their position, out of a position, I believe, of fear. And you know, it kind of weighs me down to think about the effort that people would put into doing evil, or are these just evil people? Because, you know, our nation supposedly is founded upon basic principles. And many of us, particularly in the black community, if you tell us this is so, we believe it is so. Yes. You know, and this notion of having a fundamental right in our democracy for one person to have one vote is something we believe in dearly. It's something that was fought for. But then to have people who will totally disregard that right, it's amazing. So yes, there are a layer of people who are really impotent in terms of striking back at this kind of effort. And when you have someone's job and livelihood and their family, you're holding it in their hand, and at the same time you have a candidate that is professing to say that the economy begins with the family and it's so very important, but you're willing to dismantle that union of the family by threats and intimidation. There's something very wrong with people. Now, the other thing that I think that is sad is that if you're only watching the debates or only watching news in a sporadic fashion or not reading about some of these things, you can be totally swayed, Lou, and this is why people probably find it shocking when they get these letters suggesting what they do, because they believe that there's an honesty and that there's some sort of virtue that is attached to our political system. And what they don't want to believe is that it's totally dishonest in many regards, and that virtue is not there, and that people like the Cook brothers and other companies, you know, the Cook brothers also are big supporters of the Tea Party.
Yes.
They're big supporters of ALEC, which deals with state legislation. But they shouldn't be the only ones catching this, because there are other people within their realm that are doing the same thing and attacking the Voting Rights Acts, you know, the Voting Rights Acts of 1965. And if people aren't concerned, they should be, and we need to maintain honesty in our government. So we need people to vote, and vote early, and of course vote your choice. But actually, before you vote, I would suggest that you take an inventory and interrogate yourself regarding what your needs are and what you're interested in. And I would also suggest that then you collect a little bit of information to see where your needs are going to be met.
Absolutely.
And we have offices for both candidates here in the Cedar Valley, and you can get and secure their literature. But this intimidation moving to voters within corporations, I think is appalling. And I really do encourage folks to sit down with your families, anybody who's eligible to vote, and say, listen, what are our concerns? Let's collect some information before we go fill out those ballots. Let's not just go on the sound bites that we're hearing, because there's a lot that you're not hearing. And for those who need more information, hey, email me here at the station or something,
now.
and
Exactly.
or either call in, and maybe we
give them your
can,
email.
yeah, maybe we
Dr.
can
Clayton. Yes.
direct you to places where you can get information so that you can be an informed voter,
Right.
an informed
Because-
voter. And those who've gotten these letters from these corporations, I would, of course, I'm a radical of the 60s or something. I would say keep those letters. We need to put them all in a bunch and get them into some kind of lawsuit against these folks, you know.
Well, you know, as I sit here, and right here in Waterloo, there are people who are hearing this, who are probably saying, you know, they're sure talking a lot, and I don't understand half of what it is they're trying to get across to us, but I'm telling you that if we don't pay attention now, in a couple of weeks, it's about, is it less than 2 weeks now? Are we still-
November 6th.
November 6th. You know, there's always these dire predictions about what is going to happen or what is not going to happen, depending on who's occupying the chair at the White House. But what is frightening to me, Dr. Clayton, is, as I said, there's nothing new. It may be coming from a different angle, but there is nothing new. We've seen all this before, back to the 60s, through the 70s, and the 80s, and the 90s, and then declaring that when you know, we were going to get rid of racism in this country, and post President Obama,
Post-racial society.
Post-racial society.
Right.
And I think some of us even believe that. We wanted to believe it. It just as we have from the time of slavery and beyond and all that. But I tell you, we are, if we're not going to those polls and voting our concerns, then we really will have nothing to complain about if we've not done what we can do. And what is it that we can do? We can exercise the right that we have, that no one, even though there's been a lot of work to try and direct people in the way you want them to go. But as you have said, regardless to who you want to vote for, if you don't go and vote, it's not going to work. It just doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work.
You know.
Just to help folks out a little bit, they can look at an op-ed news piece that was written. The headline says, Mitt Romney thinks it's good business to intimidate workers into voting for the GOP. And this was written by Rich Bergen, okay? And it was posted on October 21st. This October 21st, 2012, of course. And it said, one of the best pieces I have seen written on the few, the greedy, the American CEO was in Keystone Politics this afternoon. You Have No Rights at Work by Jake Bloomgard helps expose the unchecked power employers have in regards to political intimidation. And these entitlement CEOs believe freedom can only be secured by coercion of their workforce. And these titans of hypocrisy believe little in the rights of everyday Americans. They believe in the market and what they think they can get out of you. Now, a lot of this is coming from another hidden tape that Romney did make regarding this notion of it being good business for employers to engage their employees.
Yes.
And I mean, trying to use all this language that doesn't sound like it means anything. But actually, he's been caught in now 2 different situations. One with the 47% of the people don't matter. This one's saying to the employers, basically in a closed situation, I can't really tell you what to do, but it would be good business basically it would make good business sense to tell your workers what to do and to vote in a particular way because of how business will be actually impacted. So when you're listening to us and it seems as if we're going on and on with a lot of words, what we're saying basically that there is movement afoot, and it's organized movement, and it's being controlled by big business and money, basically supporting the notion that the little man, that middle class man, has no rights, and we have a right to manipulate them because it's good business. And so this was written, another piece. Luda, you want to go into this particular piece too?
Definitely,
Because
yes.
I did one on the 21st, and this one is from October 26th.
Mm-hmm.
Romney makes closing argument at firm that benefited from stimulus funds. I can't do this.
Let's get into it.
I can't do
Well,
this.
while you take your breath, I do want to say to our listeners out there who are listening, please call us here at KBBG if you have a concern or an opinion that you would like to share with the greater listening audience. This is your turn to have your say about what is happening, even as we speak. I don't know. I'm feeling fearful these last few days, and I don't know why. I've got to do something about that, Sharon. Like you, but I tell you, for what it's worth, if we do not take advantage, as I said earlier, and go and vote, then it will be to our disadvantage, not just to our disadvantage, but for those generations coming behind us, for our children and grandchildren. All of us will be looking, wishing that we had got up off of our tails and went and voted for whoever we were going to vote for. And that's the point here. Have you made up your mind? And you've been talking about voting and listening, but we've been passive.
Well,
you can't get anything done being passive.
No, you can't. And it's like people like myself, at least I'm not like this in voting. When I talk about what I would do with the lottery, when I, win the money, but I've never purchased a ticket.
Yeah.
I have all these plans, But with voting,
you can't do
with
that.
voting, that's not my deal. Now, the reason why I had that, look, I've been having many meltdowns all week because it's just an assault to my senses to see the audacity of folks to tell you one thing in one arena and then go to another arena and say the exact opposite thing. Nobody likes to be manipulated. Mm-hmm. In other words, nobody wants to be punked. You don't want to be played the fool.
That's right. And
when I see these folks who believe they have the privilege and the statue to stand up in front of groups of Americans and just blatantly tell what the president would call whoppers, I call lies, and then go smiling in your face, and y'all, we got a song all the while, smiling in your face. But it just, at some point, it's just become sensory overload. The piece that I was going to suggest is that Romney is basically, it's being reported that he will make his closing argument on the economy and what his campaign is touting as a major address. And the site Romney has chosen, however, exposes the hypocrisy and fallaciousness of one of Romney's central economic arguments. And that argument is the notion that government has no role in growing the private economy and helping businesses expand. And he frequently mocks Obama's "didn't build it" remark when he's talking to these folks. And these remarks deride the Recovery Act that was put into place in 2009 as a failure that did nothing to create jobs. Now, we know that that's not true if we've been watching. But now the candidate is delivering one of the last speeches of the campaign at Kinsler Construction Services in Ames, Iowa. A search of recovery.com shows that the firm benefited from hundreds of thousands of dollars in contracts funded by the Recovery Act of all things. Kinsler received $944,000 in contracts under stimulus-funded Department of Energy weatherization programs. That's here in Iowa, folks, in Ames, Iowa. And they also received about $39,000 as a subcontractor on a federal government contract to renovate a building owned by the federal government, making for a total of over $500,000, $689,000 plus in stimulus funds. But he's going to go to this company, and he's going to knock Obama's Stimulus Act. Now, the people at Kinsler should have, if you are a moral people with a conscience, they should be saying, I'm sorry, you can't speak here, because we have benefited from this money and our workers have benefited. But when Romney goes in there saying this, then again it becomes this, yes, the government, we need to control the government spending. And if they do that, folks, there'll be a lot more people out of work, you know, because if they had to take back all of the stimulus funds that came into the state of Iowa, there would have been a lot of people who did not have it. And so that's why all of a sudden I had a meltdown, because it was another piece, it was another piece of hypocrisy. And I don't know, my mother was one of the people who taught me about hypocrisy, you know, so.
Well, you know, as we're going to take a break here in about another.
Let me recover.
Let you recover. Again, the number here is 319-234-1441. Please call in if you have any concerns that you would like to speak on. I know that there is, you can go to Payne AME Church and register and vote. I hope that that is one of the outlets that is being used, and I hope that anyone who hasn't made up their mind, or you have made up your mind but you haven't went and actually voted, please do that. It's the one right that we have that we need to exercise ourselves. This isn't one where you can send somebody else. We need to go. We need to go, and we need to do this. So we are, I wanted to try and ask you to do something when we come back from our break. We have been trying to keep up with what is going on. Every once in a while they start talking about the media, and now you know there's a big flap about what's going to be happening with public radio and public TV and that kind of thing. This is information that was put out. It's called Alternative Sources of Funding for Public Broadcasting Stations, which is what we are. And this comes from Cooperation, as I said, for Public Broadcasting. It's an Appropriations Act, and they're supposed to be acting on it soon. But it also talks about the political and issue of advertising. And as you know, we could have made a small fortune had we been allowed, not just KBBG, I'm talking public radio.
Public radio.
Yeah. And I think that this is very, very interesting, Dr. Clayton. I'm just going to take the time to read this. Political and issue advertising. A federal appeals court recently held unconstitutional the long-time statutory ban on public broadcasting stations, sale of issue and political advertising. This decision has raised the possibility that revenues from the burgeoning market for political broadcasting advertising, a very important, if cynical, revenue source for commercial broadcasters, could become a source of funding for at least some public broadcasting stations as well. The ultimate result in that case is not yet known and may well not be known for years to come, given the likelihood of rehearing and or appeal of the decision. But if the decision is upheld and comes to be applied nationwide, public broadcasting stations would be permitted to sell political and issue advertising. For any particular station, however, the revenue potential is likely to be volatile, because a public broadcasting station's attractiveness to any prospective political advertiser relative to other available broadcast advertising outlets. is a function of market-specific, political, public opinion, and advertising market conditions that may change considerably from one election cycle and one legislative session to the next. Moreover, many, if not public stations, would likely not be inclined to sell political or issue advertising, either because of the adverse effects such advertising would have on their programming services and its perception among their audience, and because of the myriad other legal and constitutional issues that would be implicated. For example, whether a public television station licensed to a state government agency or public university could sell such advertising. I hope that we can get enough out of that to know that we always have to know where we're going and how we're going to get there in terms of what do you stand for. And what you stand for, how do you put that? We're information. We're an information station. And you're going to be putting things out there that you may not get anywhere else. I know that that is the case here at KBBG. A lot of our programming, you would not find that on any other airwaves. So and they're saying it may be years before this deal is settled.
You know, on the one hand, it's very good news, and then the other part of my brain is thinking about the threat to cease funding to PBS, and which is a part of the funding that CPB accesses. And so now, are we looking at alternative ways to fund the station as perhaps other aspects of funding will diminish? That's one thing. The other thing is that there's that caveat in there that perhaps these stations won't want to do this because of the perceived support perhaps of political positions that their listeners would come up with. And so on the one hand, it's saying this could be really something positive for you, and on the other hand, there's the stick saying be careful. Now, a lot of the black colleges have public radio stations that would probably want to also access these funds, and so we have the caveat in there that maybe you wouldn't want to do this. You know, on the one hand, it seems like a real carrot, but then there's this stick that's coming. I would think, though, that our listeners realize that we've had to, historically as a people, take advantage of those opportunities that come. And this particular station has always made it possible for any political candidate to come in and express their opinion. So I would take KBBG out of that loop that our listeners wouldn't understand, because our motto is to communicate to educate. And that means educate fully and not to educate in a lopsided fashion. So if the funds become available, now that's down the road. They're saying down the road that this may happen because of the hearings, etc. But if that becomes available, I think stations like KBBG cannot afford not to take advantage of funding when they know that the advertising or support from other larger entities historically in black radio has been cut off because of the market or perceived audience not being supportive. So
exactly. And I want you to hold your next thought. We're a little late, but we're going to just be staying at the end. This is for your information. We're laughing here. But we're not laughing about our subject today. Believe me, it is all important, I think, to all of us to encourage each other to vote. Make sure that you go and vote today. If you need a ride, I'm sure that they're at the headquarters of both the Democrats and the Republicans. You need to be, if you need to be in touch with them to ask questions or to get a ride or whatever concern you may have. We only have a few days left, and we are encouraging everyone to please go and vote. This may be, we thought 2008 was the most important one, but now it seems like it's turning out that this one is of equal just an immense, important subject to all of us, but it's one that requires that we bring ourselves to action. We can sit here and talk and talk and talk and talk, but we need to bring ourselves to action and go out. Whoever you are going to vote for, that is your business. Whoever you're going to vote for, if you don't go and vote, you'll be the loser. Do we have a call? Hello?
Hello,
Am I speaking to?
this is Pastor Perkins.
I knew it was Pastor Perkins. Listen, thank you so much for calling. We just wanted to get a statement from you or a sense of what's happening with people in general and perhaps even at Payne. So please share with our community what you will.
Well, we had the election, the satellite election is actually what it's called, satellite election, was held here on Wednesday, the 4th from 2 to 8. And we were here from that time, and we saw, I think, approximately 96 people who voted on Wednesday.
Okay.
Now, satellite voting will again happen this Saturday, actually tomorrow, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at both Jesse Cosby Neighborhood Center as well as the Hy-Vee on Logan Avenue. And on Wednesday, there were a number of turnouts for different persons. We did have poll watchers on hand to, verify the election itself and those persons who were voting. We did have two persons who were first-time voters, one who was 18 and another person who was 20, who voted for the first time, and both of them were excited to vote. We had one person who had not voted in a number of years, and she herself was excited to return to vote for the very first time on this year. So we had about 96 persons we look to have at Jesse Cosby Neighborhood Center, where I will be because I am an election official. Actually, I am the election chair for this area.
All right.
We do look for an increase of persons to come and vote because we had people who came in on Tuesday looking to vote as well as yesterday to vote. So voting seems to be going well in the Black Hawk County. I do also want to say that you do not, no matter what precinct that you're from in the Black Hawk County area, you can vote at any satellite area. So you do not have to go to your area during satellite voting. The only time you need to go to your area is on November 6th. Then you're locked into your area. But satellite voting, anyone who is a registered voter in the Black Hawk County area can come to the Jesse Cosby, whether you're from Evansdale, Cedar Falls, or wherever. You can come to Jesse Cosby Neighborhood Center and or Logan Hy-Vee.
Okay. Oh, that is such wonderful information, Pastor. And even I didn't know that you could just go in anywhere and any of the satellite.
Sure, you can. As long as you're a registered voter in Black Hawk County, because ballots, we have all of at satellites. They give you all of the ballots for every precinct area. So we have them for Evansdale. We have them for Cedar Falls. We have them for I believe even Jessup. We have them for all of Black Hawk County.
Okay.
There. So if you say I'm from Cedar Falls 1-1, we have yours. Evansdale 2-3, we have them. Waterloo 1-1, 2-3, 4-5. We have all the ballots, and that will be at again Jesse Cosby as well as Logan Hy-Vee from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. this coming Saturday. Tomorrow, actually.
All right. That is really really incredible. It can't be any easier than that.
That's what I was thinking,
Isn't that amazing?
that actually the voting has come to you as opposed to you having to go to.
The voting has come to you, yeah.
Yes.
Well, and Pastor, thank you for all of your involvement, and I hope that the community, those who have heard Pastor's voice, will take heed, and he's laid it out so that we don't have to worry about being turned away or anything like that, being in the wrong place, and then you have to go somewhere else. That will not happen.
Sure. And do let me say that if you have not registered to vote, and you come to the satellite, you can do it at the actual satellite voting.
Yes, you can
If you have not registered to vote, and in fact, tomorrow, after tomorrow, if you've not registered to vote, then you can wait till November 6th election and register on site. But you cannot, let's say next Monday, register to vote and then send it in because
Right.
it's behind the eight.
Yeah,
You have to wait to register that day. But if you come into the satellite and you want to vote and you have not registered, and or you come and your address has even changed, because normally if you go to a poll site on November 6th and you used to live in, let's say, 1044 Mobile Street, which is where the church is located, you've changed your address, and you live in a certain precinct and change your address, you will have to, go through a whole bunch. But tomorrow at both Jesse Cosby and Hy-Vee on Logan, you can register to vote, and even if you have an address change, you can still vote, because we will indicate that your address has changed, and we will help you through that process.
Okay, thank you so much for calling in and sharing that information with the community.
Sure.
Thank you.
Great. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
All right.
that
from AME.
is just fantastic.
Isn't that something?
I can remember having to, sometimes the weather would be bad, in November when I grew up in Cleveland, and we're walking to the polls to vote in bad weather. This way, you can register and vote right in your own area, or
I'm sure
or
Bobby
if you're
called
working
in.
on that
Yeah,
day,
I'm really glad that we spoke to
fantastic.
him.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
a couple things that he said that I wasn't even aware of. But it doesn't get any easier than that. So that's really a triumph as far as I'm concerned.
So all of the young people who haven't registered, they can get down and register on a Saturday.
We had a
Yeah.
young woman here yesterday, I believe she was 18 and it was gonna be her first time to vote. The young people, this time around, they were so overwhelmingly in view in '08 until, there were just thousands of them everywhere. And I'm hoping that young people this time, again, whoever you're gonna vote for, please do that, because it does take the only effort it takes is for you to go to one of the satellite places. You can register and vote.
And vote at the same time.
Yeah.
That's from 10 to 4. Yeah.
Exactly. And even though we have got to stop ourselves from being discouraged by all the stuff that we've been hearing and what has been happening, Sharon, I never thought I would live to see what I am seeing in terms of people being uncivilized.
Yeah.
That's the only word I can.
Yeah.
Uncivilized toward each other.
It's almost like some illness has just suddenly
really bad.
surfaced, and I think that illness, in many regards, is called either classism or racism.
Something, something. Yes, it is not. It's not good. It's not good for our country. It's not good for us economically. It's not good for us on the world stage. It's not good for us for the examples we're setting our children. Can you imagine that? I mean, it's just a horror anymore.
Now, I think you understand my meltdown. It just leaves you almost speechless, because when you see the behavior and you realize what's happening, you just absolutely can't believe that people are acting in this particular way. I think one of the segments of the population that I'm most concerned with not becoming cynical because of all of the actions that they're viewing among the adults, that's our young people. because many young people already feel that their vote is not going to mean anything. And then when they see the behavior of some of our elders in regards to voting and the politic, I think it's really just a salt to the senses to see this happen, because you just don't want to believe that people are acting this way. Particularly when we talk about having a constitution that guarantees the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that all men are created equal. We teach our children this, and then we show them something entirely different. So I'm concerned about the young people, and then I'm concerned about the elders who are so fearful of losing their position in society that they're willing to do anything. I mean, if you're making $17 million a day, how much more money might you need? Or,
Right.
I guess it's the power. What do you want to influence? Do you really want to influence the world? Is that why you're acting this way? And that's, I'm referencing the Cook brothers again, because this is money coming in on a daily basis. So you don't need more money. It has to be the power and influence, and it has to come out of fear. I think the notion that America is browning has set people on fire. They've been projecting the browning of America in 252 for the last 10 years or more. And I think that projection has resulted in the building of more prisons, the incarceration of more brown and black people, and now the uncivil behavior that we see among our leaders in a quest to be in control of our society. So it's disheartening, and it smacks and goes against everything that you've been taught.
Absolutely.
And what you're teaching the young people in your family. It's hard to justify to them what they're seeing. You can't tell them that they're not seeing it, because then you become as crazy as those people perpetuating
You're
it.
seeing it,
So
you're hearing it.
you're on target saying that you don't know. I don't know what happened. I jokingly said that an illness is surfacing, and it's called classism or racism.
Yeah.
But I'm serious about that.
Well, the racism has never left us. I don't know where I can remember saying at the end of the beginning of this century, are we going to take this same foolishness into the new millennium with us? Or are we finally really going to come to our senses and find out what can we do in a country that has everything? If you look at other nations and other worlds, we have it all. And at the same time, it's like there's some inner circle or something that is so greedy. As you just spoke of, how much, when you get to a trillion, how much more do you need? Or when you get several million or billion, how much more money do you need?
So it's the power and the desire to control. We have to realize that our country was founded on the exodus of people from one land to another, and the oppression of the indigenous people in the land that they exited to, and the control of those people. That's been our history: oppression, control, and power. And so when we see oppression, the desire to oppress voices, control, and overpower them, that's been a part of our legacy. People like to say that we've been founded on Christian principles. Well, if we have been founded on Christian principles, and we are a Christian nation, then why are we acting like Christians? Or if we've been founded on Islamic principles, or we are, the thing is, why is it that what we say we are is never in sync with what we're truly acting out? And that's the hypocrisy that we see coming to the surface.
The hope that I do see, and it is always, it has to be with our young people, with our children and our grandchildren. And Reverend Perkins spoke of a young lady who was 18 and was voting for the first time. The young lady that I spoke of, who was here at KBBG yesterday, and her grandmother had brought her down, and she even went on the air and did an excellent job on encouraging people to go and vote. So, we don't hear as much about those people as we do about others. But there's still hope. My thing is, there's still hope, just based on those two people that we just heard about, because there are, in spite of the grown folks supposed to be leading the children, in some cases, it's the children leading the older folks.
When you look at change,
Yes.
it's always been the younger people or the children leading. When you think about the civil rights movement,
Sure.
you have to think about the young people who did the bus rides in the South. You have to think about those young people who were marching in Birmingham on Bloody Sunday when the dogs came out and the hoses.
Absolutely.
The jails were filled with young people. And, and you're right to point that out, because often we speak of our young in negative voices, but it's been from the young that change has come about. And so with those people who came out to vote, I'm thinking about the people who are interning and volunteering who are 15 and 16 years old at some of these sites in Iowa. That's incredible. And
it is.
And I know that even as I speak, and I'm concerned about the young, I know that I have a group of young people in my classes at UNI who are so very different from what you hear nationally in terms of their beliefs. They're very progressive thinkers. So there is hope, and helping those people to find their voice, I think, is the responsibility of adults to help young people find their voice and be able to act on some of their beliefs.
That's for sure. And all this it really got me thinking when this is a cartoon in the USA Today. The date line is August 31st, and they're talking about politics, of course, what else? And there are 4 pictures here. The first one says, your convention was full of sweeping generalizations, but sorely lacking in specifics. And the next one says, okay then, we hate Obama. And then they look at each other, and then the other guy says, a lot. I mean, he's saying, okay, what's the truth of this? Okay, so we do.
Well,
We don't want to talk about what really our own reality, and that's the reason, again, in spite of all this kind of trash that we've been looking at and exposed, whether it's been magazines or television or telephones or whatever, just to know that there are kids still out there, like those 16, well, there were about 9 that you had on your show last Saturday. Those young black men.
And it's going to re-air again tomorrow, I hope. So
okay,
if you missed
and
it,
that was a very good show. It's just like what we hear is how bad the young people are, but do we hear how good the young people are? If they were not, how did you get 18-year-olds to go and vote for the very first time? And things like that, I think we've got to be more positive, and our children, in spite of us, I hope will move ahead and, reach for those stars.
Might I make, because those kids last week were kids that I met in the 3rd grade, and it was such a pleasure for them to be here, but I could hear the cry from them, even if it was unspoken, saying to the listeners, we are not all bad.
Exactly.
There's some of us who want to move ahead, and we might be victims of really stereotyping our own youth sometimes, and perceiving that all of our youth will be acting this way. But those boys were, I should say, young men. They were crying out for the public to realize that when you see us, don't automatically assume that we are bad or that we have no intentions.
That is so true.
Can I make a second comment? When you read that political cartoon, I want to remind the listeners that when Obama was being sworn in 2009, Republicans were meeting in a back room and deciding that they would have an agenda to get him out of office.
From day one.
And all of the things that we're seeing happening at this point is a part of that agenda. So it's not anything that's new. It's something that was planned as a part of this whole effort. Robert Draper's book is the one that you would want to read.
Okay, well, we've had a fast-paced morning here. We hope that we have encouraged people to go out and vote. And if you haven't registered, you can do that also. Remember the satellite offices, you don't have to go downtown. You can, wherever those offices are, they're set up to receive you and to make sure that you are able to vote. It's probably one of the most important times in our history. So we want to say thanks to all of you for being there. This is Lou Porter signing off for myself and for Dr. Scharron Clayton.